G'day everyone. I was going to try prop this up on the surf, but there's nowhere really stable enough to record the video, so I'm just going to do a handheld. Apologies for the delay. I've been traveling from Aussie back to NZ this weekend, so it was really hard to squeeze the video in, and then back into full-time work, helping out on the farm as well. So yeah, I guess if you don't make time for the stuff, it's never going to happen, which is something I'll eventually talk about as well. But yeah, you really just have to stay consistent with it. But the topic for today, which I've been meaning to talk about since last weekend or even earlier, was dressing well. Now, I think I'm going to call the title of the video Sharp Dressed Man for the ZZ Top song. But on how dressing well is a vital thing, not only for your personal life, but also societally. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's a few key aspects that I want to touch on this. And I'm sure you guys will already intuitively understand the importance of this stuff, but let me give you the first example. A suit, putting a suit on. Now, most young guys, when you have that experience of putting on a suit for the first time, you feel pretty schmicko, like you feel like kind of like a real man. And now, why would we feel that? Because when we wear a certain type of clothing that's appropriate for a situation or that's indicative of the importance of a situation, your body and your mind naturally recognizes that. And we see it in multiple aspects, not just suits. Like when you put a suit on, you put a tie on, you're like, dang, I'm about to go to something important. When you put on your running shoes or you put on your gym gear, your body kind of gets ready. It's like, okay, I'm about to enter this activity. Or let's say you put on a rugby jersey or the sports jersey for the sports that you're about to play. And even more key, I guess this is one that I've come in contact with a lot, is putting on a cassock or the vestments that you use to serve a mass. So basically to serve and assist during church. And that's a huge one because you'll see a lot of young kids, obviously, getting into this for the first time. They put on the robe, they put on the cassock, they put on the surplice, and they go out on the altar. And it's like the most important job they're ever going to do. And they feel that purely because of the way they're dressing. So clearly there's a very strong link between how you dress and how your mind sort of perceives that and then changes its actions. Like, let's go to like an audience with a king. Like if you're going to go meet a king, you can also go meet Christ the King in Mass. But if you have an audience with a very important or superior person, you typically make sure that your dress reflects the gravity of the situation. So clearly there's something to it. Clearly it's not irrelevant, the way that you dress, and clearly it also affects the way that you think. Again, if you're in a suit, if you're in a collared shirt, if you're in a tie, you're more likely to be sharp, you're more likely to be professional, you might be taking more care of how you speak. And now imagine the opposite of that, which is being in your pajamas or being in slovenly clothing, ripped t-shirts, baggy, really loose. When you're kind of wearing those clothing, you don't feel like you're about to enter the arena. You don't feel sharp because you're kind of the person. Crap, I just blink and stop the video and have to record two here. But basically, when you wear that bad baggy type of clothing, your mind is not thinking, like, it's not going into performance mode. You're probably going to be more like sloppy, you're going to be more sluggish. Like it's not clothing that evokes performance or taking care of yourself or pride in yourself. It just shows lack of care. So I think we have that parallel very clear in mind. And now I was just listening to Jordan Peterson and Andrew Huberman, and Jordan Peterson was saying that, well, I think I've just given you the reasons on why it's bad, personally speaking, and there's so much more that you can get into that, but it's like an outward manifestation of your lack of care. So when you go into town or you show up for an interview or whatever range of things that involve interactions with other people, and your clothing is clearly just what you threw on in the morning, you didn't really pay attention to it, etc., you're showing by your body that you don't really give a crap. That's basically it. It's an outward manifestation of your lack of care. Okay, so we've basically gone from these very basic scenarios. We've kept that in mind. We figured out that what we wear affects the way that we think and act. Now, how is this affecting society on a broader scale? Because basically the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything, right? So if you're showing up to public settings, largely speaking, generally speaking, if you're showing up for functions and events with pretty bad and basic clothing, casual clothing, athleisure clothing, etc., you're basically cultivating this entire mindset of not giving a crap. And what does that do to a society? When everyone just dresses and talks how they please, they will use slang, they don't take care about how they speak, they don't take care about how they dress. It builds a society, it builds a culture that has a lack of care, has a lack of care about the important things. Now, it's always funny looking back in the day, you watch the movies from like the 1920s or movies set in that time period, and you've got your newspaper deliverer guy, and he's wearing a tie and a waistcoat and a hat, and he's greeting everyone like sir and madam. What kind of culture do you think that would build if people started acting and dressing that way? It builds a culture of respect, it builds a culture of pride in oneself, a healthy pride, and it builds a culture where people are actually caring about the things that they do and say. It builds a culture of care in that really good and positive sense, because we need people that care. People that care and, are passionate about their lives and their careers and their relationships and all of that, that generally means that those things are going to be better. If you care about something and you think about something and you want to do it to the best of your ability, 100% you're going to be doing it better than the guy who just rocks up 5 minutes late in whatever he's wearing and half-asses the job. So it's all interlinked. They're not separate. Like, you can't just dress like a bum and then expect to get a good job or expect to build a good career or expect people to respect you, because it's not going to happen. You've got to be integrated in the way that you think and act. So that's ultimately the message of this video, that dressing well is part of integrating the mind and body. And it's just like going to the gym. What does it do? It improves your confidence. It improves your ability to speak and interact with people. Why? Because now you're integrating your mindset of confidence and competency out into your body. You can't just be competent up here. You've actually got to be able to communicate and relate yourself to other people. If you can't do that because you're a fat ass, or because your body is weak, or because you're suffering from whatever number of issues, or you don't know how to dress properly so people view you as a weirdo, you could be Albert Einstein, you could be Winston Churchill, but it's not really how it works. Now, we do have exceptions to this. I'm not going to say there's not exceptions, but generally speaking, and for men and women who are really trying to better themselves and go into this, we have to take that into mind, that integration of body and mind. And if we don't, I think we're putting ourselves at a serious disadvantage. And as I spoke about earlier, I don't think it's good for the culture or society at all. So, yeah, doesn't mean you have to rock up with a 3-piece suit to blink and mail a letter or buy your groceries, but a bit of care, put some pants on, put some decent shoes, don't just rock around in the slides. A nice t-shirt or a collared, a polo, like, you'll instantly recognize the difference in yourself and also the situations that you're in. Let me give you a quick example before we head off. So I was inspecting a house in Aussie to start renting with a few mates. And we went to the house inspection, and there were these two guys. I believe it was a father and son. I guess it could have been two brothers, but they weren't like super out of shape. You could tell they were a bit skinnier, but they were wearing like these oversized, like heavy metal t-shirts and like sweatpants. I can't remember what shoes they were wearing, but also a bit unkempt in terms of the facial hair. Haircut wasn't the best. And I'm not saying I'm like a drastically handsome guy or whatever, but clean shaven, which makes a huge difference. Polo, chino shorts, whites on the bottom, like pretty ordinary, but it basically, I demonstrated to the lady in charge of that inspection that I cared enough about getting the house, or I cared enough about that event to think for one more second than that guy beside me, okay, well, maybe I'm going to put something nice on. Maybe I'm going to show that I'm going into a public setting. Maybe I'm going to demonstrate with my body my ability to care for something, i.e. the house, i.e. the property. If I'm showing that I can care for myself and my body and my appearance, people are going to be way more likely to trust me with something else. And she told me, because those other guys left before that, like, well, I don't want any bogans. Like, I can see from you guys that you know, you're going to present and basically behave yourselves well purely based on the way you dress. Now, she didn't verbalize it exactly in that way, but that's basically what it was. So don't overlook this. All right, we're going to try to be consistent with these videos from now on. Obviously, it's a bit hard, but hopefully by next weekend, should we moved into the new house, travel would be done for a couple months, so I can really start banging these out. I've got a huge list of topics of stuff like this, so hopefully you guys like it. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I have been getting a lot of support, but you guys usually send me DMs and stuff. So make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment as well. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you disagree. Yeah, would be keen to hear from you. All right, God bless.